Good evening, and welcome to the Virginia Mathematics Pathways Initiative Community Informational Second Session. Tonight, we will focus on how VMPI affects Virginia children's futures. My name is Shelley Pine, and I have been a K-12 math teacher, coach, and supervisor for 29 years in public education. I'm currently the middle school professional development specialist in Prince William County Schools. I'm also the chair of the Communications Committee for VMPI. Working with me this evening is Patricia Parker, who will share a little bit about what she brings to VMPI.
Thank you, Shelley, and good evening, everybody. I have taught 8th grade mathematics, high school, and dual enrollment mathematics, and college for the last 27 years in the Commonwealth of Virginia. In 2015, I was the project director of the Math Pathways work that occurred between the Virginia community colleges and universities in Virginia. And I now serve as the director of Transfer Virginia for the State Council of Higher Education and the Virginia Community College System as we work to streamline the student experience from high school through the 2-year and 4-year institutions. Also working with us this evening is Chuck English, who will share a little bit about what he brings to VMPI.
Good evening. I'm Chuck English, and a little bit about myself. Over the past 20 years, I have worked in a variety of different positions, including teaching high school math and college math. I've also worked as an education director at a couple of different museums. Currently, I serve as the Virginia STEM coordinator. I'm trying to hopefully align all the different STEM efforts that are going on in the state, which are a lot of fantastic different things, one of which is some of the work that we're doing here. So I'm part of the VMPI communications team, and I'm looking forward to our conversations.
Thank you both. This webinar session is being live streamed. We welcome your questions and feedback as we progress through the presentation. So here's a QR code or a tiny URL that you can use that will link you to a form for your submissions. Patricia, Chuck, and I, along with some VMPI and BDOE team members, will be reviewing these questions as we progress through the session. At the end of the presentation portion, we'll try to identify some common questions that can be addressed. Some of the questions that are posted may be more suited to address in one of our future 2 presentations. We are excited to hear your feedback and questions regarding the initiative. Even though we may not be able to answer every question posed tonight, know that these sessions will be used to inform the work of VMPI and the team as this initiative progresses. Shown on the screen is our agenda for this evening. We'll begin with how VMPI is helping Virginia plan for our children's futures. Then we'll share some outcomes we would desire to see in public education. We'll follow with an overview of the mathematics pathways that are proposed in VMPI and share some national efforts for this change. Again, remember that the QR code and the tiny URL, they'll show up on lots of screens tonight so that you'll be able to enter your questions or feedback or comments as the evening progresses. On your screen, you also see the next 2 meetings that we will hold in this series of 4. On April 27th, we will dive deep into essential concepts in grades 8 through 10. And then on May 25th, we will dive deep into the advanced pathways courses for grades 11 and 12.
For those of you who were not able to attend our first community session in March, we wanted to remind you that the Virginia Mathematics Pathway Initiative has 5 main goals. The first goal is to improve equity in mathematics learning opportunities. The second goal is to empower students to be active participants in a quantitative world. The third goal encourages students to see themselves as knowers and doers of mathematics. Everyone truly is a math person. The fourth goal is to identify K-12 mathematics pathways that support future post-secondary opportunities. And the final goal is to collaborate with multiple stakeholders to advance mathematics education. A link to the VMPI webpage where you can locate a VMPI VMPI infographic can be found on the Google form that can be accessed using the QR code or tiny URL link shown on the screen. During the March session, we addressed some of the information, including on the front of the infographic. During tonight's session, we will discuss some of the information included on the second page of the infographic.
Planning for the future. So math education should be embraced as one of the major elements needed to best prepare youth for the challenges of not just today, but for tomorrow. We are working to prepare the students currently enrolled in our schools for an ever-evolving future, and we need to follow the needs and requests of the groups that we're preparing the children for, including post-secondary education and career workforce. Both groups are asking for deeper experiences, more explicit connections with math to real-world problems. We need to ensure that we more successfully engage youth in the touch points that will empower them to be more successful in their future, which requires some rethinking to our methods and models. The change is continuous and hard to predict. If we had that vision into the future, we would all automatically change our current behaviors and investments to best fit the need. Looking back, we can see how quickly things have changed. In the 80s, were introduced household computers. However, I went to college and graduated in the early 90s with an electronic typewriter. Personal computers were not a regular thing until about 25 years ago, around 1996. In the 90s, some bag phones started appearing in certain circles. Pagers were more popular. Soon flip phones were commonly used. Eventually, the Palm Pilot and the phone combined to create the smartphone. Even I bought and used the early versions of the BlackBerry just a little over 10 years ago. Now, partially due to the pandemic, you can find hundreds of articles on smartphone addiction. Over the past 5 years, we've seen a huge surge in how we use social media, how big data and marketing has changed our digital use, how shopping has gone more and more online. These are all changes that require rethinking of how we are developing, implementing, and using new skills to meet the demands of this evolving culture. Much of it ties to math, but maybe something different than the calculus that we've been pushing a lot of people through. It is an opportunity to provide more pathways for our youth. It helps us better meet the needs of employers and colleges. It helps create a more math positive learning environment and literacy for everyone, which is really what we need. It helps us ensure that all Virginians will eventually see themselves as math capable and competent.
So in the late 1800s, the National Education Association of the United States Committee on Secondary School Studies, that is quite a title, more commonly known as the Committee of 10. Well, they established this structure of public education that we still use today. We have what is referred to as a geometry sandwich. It's 3 courses, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. And these contain essential content that is valuable to all learners. And they contain some content that's really only important to a smaller subset of learners. These courses haven't changed in a number of years, and they certainly haven't changed with the times, as we have had new developments in other fields that mathematics plays a role in. For some time, we have held calculus as the goal or the finish line for mathematics, while other areas of math have been treated as less important. We know that data analysis and statistics have become more important in being a productive member of society, as well as in college majors and our workforce. We haven't changed our mathematical offerings to keep up with this change. So VMPI have been working with members of the workforce, military, and institutions of higher education, and they have all requested purposeful, deeper applications of mathematics, not more math faster. So what are our desired outcomes in mathematics education? From those conversations we've been having with the workforce and the military and higher ed, we've heard loud and clear the need to stop skimming the surface and instead provide students with deeper understandings and uses of mathematics in this changing world. While we focus on this change, Virginia policies regarding the revision of the standards of learning will still be followed. These policies include providing opportunity for public comment on the existing 2016 math standards of learning, public review and comment of drafted revised standards, seeking feedback from state businesses, colleges and universities, state math organizations, and review and approval from the Board of Education. While we follow these policies, we still want to be certain that we are providing students pathways to navigate this changing world. Let's take a look at these pathways.
Sorry. As we think about the changes in the mathematics classroom, it is important to keep our eye on a fundamental goal of elementary and secondary education, preparing our students for the future. One future option for students is higher education. We recognize it is critical to improve students' opportunities at colleges and universities. And to that end, we have already begun to work closely with Virginia's institutions and have planned outreach to out-of-state universities as well. How will we assure that your students are admitted to colleges as the competition for spots in the admissions process seems to grow? By holding direct meetings with admissions officers, supported by the conversations with academic departments, we will discuss the changing student experience. All colleges and universities have admissions folks whose role is to understand the state or region from which they are receiving students. Every state is slightly different in the opportunities they provide students. The VMPI work reflects the evolving changes in degree program requirements at our Virginia colleges and universities. The shift from calculus to the data science and quantitative reasoning skills creates additional opportunities for our students. A student's desire to enroll in advanced placement, international baccalaureate programs, and dual enrollment courses are all supported by the VMPI plan and align with higher education's desires to have students who can think deeply about mathematics, think about mathematics outside of the confines of a course, and to make connections between mathematics and other areas of study, and to critically think and reason mathematically.
In terms of career pathways and citizenship, math outcomes should meet the needs of Virginian youth no matter their path. Math is vital for everyone. This includes various careers right out of high school, household needs including finance, military expectations when they're pushing for STEM-capable youth to meet their changing technical needs. Math pathways is for everyone so that they can begin to see themselves as math literate. We need to change how people perceive math so that they can see how it fits into their everyday lives and hopefully become inspired to see how these skills meet their needs. Math is for everyone.
As Chuck and I mentioned, the changes in mathematics are to align the students' secondary mathematics experiences with the needs of higher education, workforce, and society. In the VMPI work, grades 11 and 12 are known as the advanced concept courses. This is where students start to shape their future and explore areas of interest. It is an opportunity for students to dive into up to four areas of study that interest them and to prepare for careers and/or college. As we noted earlier, the advanced concept course offerings still include calculus. Students in international baccalaureate schools will be prepared to take these courses and will complete them as before. Students in divisions where dual enrollment and advanced placement courses are offered will be provided these same options. It is also exciting to provide students opportunities to explore relevant and current mathematics through the new offerings of quantitative reasoning as a full year course and a full course in statistics.
So those were examples of year-long courses that are very much what we offer already. Here on the screen, you'll see we have some half-credit course options. Some of these courses already exist, and some of them are brand new. These half-credit courses can be taken in module pairs, or they could be mixed and matched as students desire. Students will select these courses that either lead to their post-high school plans or those that provide extension of learning that they found particularly engaging in their essential concepts courses. Some schools will be able to offer many of these options all at the same time, while other schools may have to offer the options on a rotating basis, make them available at some point during a student's 4-semester experience. The VMPI is working purposefully within regions to identify opportunities for providing these options by working together within regions. The May 25th presentation will take a deeper dive into the courses available in advanced concepts. Many questions we have received thus far pertain to that session, so please be sure to join us to hear more about pathways in 11th and 12th grade.
In our 2015 redesign of mathematics in the 2-year colleges that I mentioned in my introduction, the 2-year colleges spent significant time working with the 4-year colleges and advisory workforce groups. What we heard at every single meeting and in every single conversation was the critical need for students to possess foundational and essential mathematical concepts. It is not just about students being able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, though that is important. It is about students being able to make sense out of the mathematics that they learn and the answers that they find. The workforce and colleges want students to be able to understand mathematical models, understand the concepts of growth and decay, understand the financial world, understand size and relationships, be able to reason spatially and numerical, understand and justify why certain things happen in the world. Hands down, across all our work in Virginia, what the universities and workforce wanted is for students to think mathematically outside of the mathematics classroom, as well as to make connections between what they learned last year, last semester, last month, to what they are learning today. Finally, they want students to ask why and to learn from what didn't work as much as from what did. All of this type of mathematical maturity happens as students develop deeply the fundamental concepts and are faced with challenges that connect those concepts for the students to the world around them.
So in grades 8, 9, and 10, students will no longer take the courses that are traditionally known as Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. Instead, those courses have been reviewed, and the concepts that are essential for all students have been selected and sequenced for grades 8 through 10. These essential concepts will provide situational experiences for students to apply their knowledge as requested by higher ed, the military, and the workforce. The concepts will be connected so that students will develop number sense, determine feasibility of numeric solutions, and find the mathematics that are applicable to other areas in their lives. Students will have greater opportunity to connect the mathematics they're studying to concepts that they're also learning in their science or social studies or health classes. Teachers can now do purposeful integration through cross-curricular connections as students in grades 8 through 10 will share these common courses. As we continue our path backwards, we know that students in grades K through 7 will need to become knowers and doers of mathematics. As members of a child's community, we must begin to talk positively about mathematics. We must help children see the connections between their world and mathematics. In foundational concepts, we will provide authentic problem-solving experiences. We will take the time for children to notice and wonder about mathematics and explore their wonderings. We need to help. We need your help. We need parents and community members to require students to explain and justify while making connections. We need everyone involved in a child's life to remind them that we are all math people and that all of us are capable of knowing and doing mathematics.
So, national partners in change. The best part about this process is our partners. Virginia is not doing this on their own. This is a huge math initiative that involves national math leaders, businesses, universities, and 23 other states. How states implement these changes will be different, but they all share common goals around improving students' math pathways. This is not something that will create a separate case for Virginia's youth. It is not just a handful of educators in the Department of Education. VMPI is a movement designed to improve math for everyone. Too many friends and colleagues may identify themselves as a non-math person, when math is one of the more essential skills we all need to use. Math is a broad topic. It helps us lean on the research, experience, and support of others as we all move to create a better, deeper, more sustainable approach to math, better preparing youth for their future. So everyone is a math person. The breadth of needs across the Commonwealth is great. There are many opportunities within the state. The best thing we can do is improve the pathway options for youth, help them deepen their skills, help them apply those, help them apply those skills to new world scenarios so they can better identify how to use what they have learned. We need to make sure that those interested in calculus can receive those lessons, as well as those who need a richer understanding of data and statistics, or applied computer math or applied math skills. We need to make sure we are providing the best options possible to better prepare the most capable youth ready to go to college or enter the workforce. We need to help create connections in math to make sure that everyone can eventually see themselves as a math person. We've already received a lot of feedback. I'm going to have one of our DOE mathematics people, our coordinator, Tina Mazzacane, jump in and answer some of considerations VMPI teams have already started addressing.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks, Patricia. We really have been receiving some feedback from folks, and we're glad to receive it because one of the main purposes of us holding these meetings and webinars is to have that opportunity to collect your feedback regarding the initiative and to answer questions from stakeholders that come to your mind as you're learning about the work. Please keep in mind that the work of VMPI is evolving. The stakeholder feedback that we've received thus far has provided a lot of additional insight into many of the important considerations that we are looking at through the Virginia Math Pathways Initiative. So you'll see on the screen, we have several that we know that are going to be considerations. The first is shifting to deeper learning through differentiated instruction. The proposed shift that the initiative has for moving through math content faster to learning more deeply about math ideas and authentic applications is going to require some careful thought and consideration. So each school division in Virginia has unique needs and opportunities that will have to be considered from a state perspective as we prepare for the implementation of the new pathways. And the VDOE is collecting feedback and working on how to ensure that the needs of all students are best served and addressed. Students will be provided opportunities for content extensions through differentiation. Tracking students into groups based on perceived ability level is different than ensuring that individual needs and potential of each student is addressed. The beliefs, whether historical, cultural, or social, about children's mathematical abilities that might contribute to some of our inequitable practices that could exist in math grouping and acceleration will need our close examination as the implementation of this initiative does move forward. The second consideration we're looking at is supporting access to rigorous coursework. Stakeholder feedback has expressed some specific concerns about how changes would impact students preparing to study in math-intensive fields. VMPI leadership teams are ensuring that the math course options being proposed provide a pathway to pre-calculus and calculus level work, while also paving the way for just as rigorous other options that could focus on data analysis or math modeling, computer science, or other rigorous math. Bridges are being made with our higher education partners to ensure that the transition to these newer math pathways are smooth. The third consideration is about providing equity and readiness and access. Dismantling inequitable structures that challenge spaces of marginality and privilege are needed to ensure that every student is well prepared with the mathematical literacy they require and deserve for both their future personal and professional lives. Ensuring consistent identification of students who possess unfinished learning in mathematics and would benefit from additional support to strengthen and deepen mathematical learning in order to ensure readiness is certainly needed. The fourth consideration is about teacher preparation, licensure, and teacher shortages. Stakeholder feedback did echo that there is a need to consider changes to teacher prep programs and to take into account our teacher shortage issues and to re-examine licensure requirements as the initiative moves forward. And finally, stakeholder feedback has also revealed considerations needed to determine how student assessment will be affected by some of the proposed changes. The VDOE should examine the options that are available to move toward a more balanced approach to assessment that might require some different scenarios that we currently don't have in use in terms of assessment. So at this time, we are going to move forward and address some of your questions and concerns. Kristen Williams, who is our mathematics and special education specialist here at the VDOE, and myself have been monitoring some of the questions that you've been submitting. And we are going to pose some of those questions now to our three panelists. So first, I think that we wanted to kind of address some of the things in the first webinar. So Shelley, did you want to say something about that? You had helped us monitor the questions last week.
Absolutely. And so the last time that we did this, we had questions that came in during, and then we have had a lot of feedback and comments and questions in between the last session and this one. So we looked at those questions and made sure that we could try to address those in the sessions that were appropriate. So remember that this form is going to be available through May 25th. So if something hits you tonight as after we get off and you're like, oh, I really want to know that, just add that in. We can add that to the next two webinars. And sometimes questions are just not appropriate for this particular topic tonight and will be answered in the next two. So please be sure to join us.
Great, perfect. So we do have a question, and the question is, my child is not likely to attend college in Virginia. Have you considered this possibility and what are you doing about it? Who'd like to take that one? Patricia, do you want to start?
Sure, thank you. I'll be glad to. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are working with admissions directly in the Virginia, but we have also identified the schools where our students are enrolling out of state. And we are planning communication with them to help them understand the changes of our student profile. Just like in Virginia, colleges have often react to all state paradigms. So they have to understand what's happening in each state so that they can react to that in their admission decisions. No two states seem to be very much alike. They also take into account what opportunities were available to a student with a goal of equitable considerations. Have you heard perhaps of a student that has gone to a large high school with a very high achieving graduating class and only a certain percentage of them got into a particular university. And that is because of the hope to diversify and to have equitable considerations, even if a student's school doesn't offer all of the AP or IB or dual enrollment opportunities that another school may offer. So they do take all that into account. Shelley, if you'd like to share, you had actually an out-of-state experience, not an out-of-mind experience, but an out-of-state experience about college admissions.
I did. I was just sharing them with them that over spring break, I went to Georgia and Florida with my daughter, who's a junior, who has no desire to stay in Virginia for college. And so we had 6 visits with universities, and at every single one of them, unbeknownst to me, there's a person whose job it is to deal with students from Virginia coming to their university. I didn't even know this existed. So yay, now I know that as a member of VMPI, we have this person to contact at every university that we can prepare the information that says, this is what Virginia's doing, and this is how students are prepared for your courses. So I was excited to learn that. And then experience it while we were on tour. So I don't think I wouldn't be as worried about leaving Virginia to go to college as you might be.
Great. Thanks, Patricia. Shelley. Another question kind of along some similar lines. How will VMPI affect students who transfer in from other states or out of Virginia to other states? So these would be students that are still in our K-12 system.
Can I take that as the K-12 current math teacher? Here's the thing, it happens right now. We have the SOLs. Other states do Common Core or their very own state standards. And so our guidance departments are incredibly versed in dealing with students who come from other states and sending our children to other states. Schools who are sending the child send information to the receiving school, and then they figure out what has the child's mathematical experiences led them to? And then we try to put that in the right place. If you go to school where you are a 4x4 in high school right now, you know that if you transfer to a place that's not 4x4, there has to be an adjustment made. And so receiving and sending schools do a great job communicating. And so VMPI will ensure that all the guidance departments have the right information to send to other states and the right information about receiving students from other states.
Great, thank you. We also wanted to kind of take a look at, there's a question here, and we're trying to group them together. It looks like this one's about military families. Oh, hold on, this one probably goes more with than what we just did. How will this affect Virginia students who transfer to another Virginia school district? I don't know, was that part of the other one? I think this is like within the state.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we also have students that do that. You leave Prince William, you go to Fairfax, you leave Fairfax, you go to Loudoun, your families have to move at some point within the state of Virginia. And the beauty of Virginia's standards of learnings is that they are state curriculum. Everybody in the state follows the Virginia standards of learning. And so as we revise those for 2023, everybody in the state will revise their standards at the same time. I, as a math teacher, have called people in other divisions. I just got Johnny in my class. I see that he came from your class. Can you tell me about what you were doing? Tell me about your pacing. Tell me about where you were in the standards so that I can make sure that I serve Johnny the best. And I believe I've worked with a number of educators that have done the same, and I've received those calls. So I believe that educators are really in this business to help children, not harm them. And so we want to make sure that we're getting them the right math where they need it. And I totally think that this initiative doesn't change that for children at all.
And Shelley, I think I would just add that as you think about the new opportunities in 11th and 12th grade and what you said about not every division will offer the same ones at the same time, but to your point that the teachers will work together. We're very confident that the teachers are going to figure out whether it's using technology or just working with that student to complete wherever they are, to complete the work and earn that credit. but there will be consistency in 8th through 10th grade. So any shifts in 8th through 10th grade should be already aligned. So we all feel confident exactly what Shelley said, that the teachers are going to work together to help those students that are in transition.
Great. So I think this next question goes along with that. It talks about military families, which in Virginia, we do have a somewhat large military population. We're a military family who moves frequently from state to state. How will the new math initiatives affect the military interstate compact?
It's okay, I'll take that one.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck.
The Interstate Compact is a state law in the Code of Virginia. The purpose is to remove barriers to educational success imposed on children of military families because of frequent moves or deployment of their parents. Students, particularly those at the secondary level, are considered on an individual basis by each local educational agency or school district. The Military Compact gives flexibility to students who may complete the coursework in other states, then transfer into Virginia. The VMPI team has already had the opportunity to collect stakeholder feedback from our military liaison community representative, and will continue to collaborate to ensure that VMPI considers the needs of military children.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. I think that you may have done a little bit of research on that one, because not everybody knows what the military compact is. So thank you for checking it out.
I'm glad to have seen the question first, so I can actually look that up and make sure I was right on.
Very good.
And that points out nicely that like some of these questions have come in between. And so they required some research for us to make sure that we're addressing your concerns. So know that entering your information, even if it doesn't get answered this evening, we are reading every single comment, feedback, and concern and question and trying to make sure we answer you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shelley. Here's another question. My child will graduate high school in 2028. Will he have met the new, or will he have to meet the new graduation requirements, or will he be grandfathered into the old requirements?
Let me start with that. So we have a timeline that's on that webpage that you can get to from the document in which you can enter your questions and comments. And so what happens is in 23-24, that is when the Board of Education will approve a new mathematics set of standards. The next year, 24-25, is when we have a crosswalk. That means we teach the old standards and the new standards, and we mesh them together and figure that out. So then the idea is that 25-26 is when we would have that full implementation of the Essential Concepts course. We are, of course, still in conversation because some students will be sort of in the middle of the geometry sandwich that we talked about earlier. And so we're still making sure that we have the best things in their minds. But a student that's going to graduate in 2028 gets this incredible opportunity to have these advanced pathways courses available to them. So they will get this opportunity to have some new courses, and the graduation requirements then come with all of those policies that we listed earlier. So that will come as we move through all of that policy, but the availability of the coursework will be available for your child who graduates in 2028.
And I think that you said this, Shelley, but these changes do coincide very nicely with our traditional, every 7 years we revise standards in Virginia for the 4 disciplines. So this initiative is going to coincide with the 2023 revision of those standards. So and that of course brings its own set of protocols in terms of public comment and the Board of Education review. So all of that is yet to come. It looks like there's a question that has to do with the pathways. Will 11th graders be able to pivot to other pathways should their postgraduate plans change? Anybody want to take that one?
I'll jump in, Tina, on that one. So this is what's really exciting about the 11th and 12th grade options, is that students will be able to mold their choices as they make decisions about their plans, as well as their interests change. So, if they pick 2 semester courses in 11th grade, but then they decide they want to go a more STEM route and they shift to the pre-calculus in 12th grade, there are those opportunities. So 11th and 12th grade give the students 4 semesters to really mold what their experience looked like. And just a reminder that we will be elaborating much more about the various mathematics pathways being proposed in the May 25th session. And these pathways are focused on providing opportunities for all students to learn the fundamental and essential skills in order to enter into those pathways. So that opens so many doors for students, whereas now a lot of those choices are being forced back at the middle school level. So students are able to develop their skills and be prepared for many different pathways. So please join in on May 25th, where you'll really get some deep dive into the exciting opportunities students will have in 11th and 12th grade.
Can I jump into that too? Because I remember reading a question or a comment in this intervening time about, I think it was like, how can we expect a 10th grader to know what they want to study? And so how will they know which course to take in this 11th and 12th grade? And what if they get stuck in that track? And I think that Patricia did a beautiful job explaining that you can pivot all the time. Only a semester at a time is required for you to start in this pathway. And you mentioned we make that decision for a lot of children at 10 years old right now, as they enter into 6th grade. And how do they know that they're going to want to pursue any route that takes them to calculus at 10 years old? The really cool thing is that in Essential Concepts, though, as we do a math task, we can say, hey, if you really liked this one, this is the semester course you should take in 11th or 12th grade because you will love it. So we can connect what they're learning in 8 through 10 with what possibilities exist in 11 and 12. So there'll be a lot more information on that in the April 27th session on 8 through 10. But I just thought it fit perfectly here. Kids have just incredible opportunities. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Yeah, thanks. We're super excited about those new courses in the 11th and 12th grade. Another question that's come in is, how are we going to prepare students for the rigor of calculus when we don't start until they separate in 11th grade? So I think they mean when the current pathways that you showed don't show until after 10th grade, that there's those options.
I'm happy to take that if folks want.
I'd love it. Thank you.
So I have taught, as I mentioned, high school. I've taught high school calculus, college calculus, and then in the leadership with the math pathways work with the universities. So we've spent a lot of time on this topic, on what students should take in order to be most prepared and successful in college STEM programs. And actually, the preparation for calculus doesn't start in 11th grade with this plan. It starts way before any course in higher algebra. And I mean this very, very genuinely. Our strongest calculus students start with a deeper understanding of the fundamental mathematical skills. So in a calculus class, quite frankly, the easiest part to teach in calculus is the calculus concepts, because that's the new stuff. What makes calculus so hard is when students need reinforcement on conceptual and foundational skills that serve as the building blocks. And the best thing a student can do for success in higher level mathematics is to truly understand all the building blocks that come before the calculus concepts. So not just knowing that 28 divided by 7 is 4, but also truly understanding the concept of division and what it means. Knowing that 1/2 plus 1/4 is 3/4, but also knowing how and why behind rationalizing the denominator to adding fractions is really important, because we use that all the time in higher algebra and calculus courses. understanding that the equation 2x plus 7 equals 12 has a solution, but also understanding how it has a solution, why it has a solution, and the actual reasonableness of that solution. If students will take advantage of this opportunity to understand the how and the why in every grade level, in all the concepts that they are learning, the preparation for calculus can take place in a semester, first semester, or a year in their 11th grade year. And the students can still complete the calculus desired by colleges and universities. And even more importantly, the calculus experience will also be a different one, as now the students will be enrolling in calculus because that is what interests them and prepares them for the direction in which they wish to go. Other students will enroll in equally rigorous courses that pique their interest, making learning harder mathematical concepts even easier. So when students are in courses that they desire to be in and they have interest in, the learning changes. And when they come with those foundational concepts, the learning changes. And that's what VMPI is about. Change the learning so that the experience improves and helps student be more successful.
Great, thank you, Patricia. Let's see, there's another question that came in tonight. What changes need to be made for grades 6 through 8 courses? Anybody want to take that one?
Well, I am the middle school professional development specialist right now, so I should probably take it. So 6 to 8 is definitely going to change. So we talked about K7 and then 8 to 10 as two separate things. And that foundational concept, since I started teaching, people have told me that middle school has such incredible stuff that we don't teach children because we just always push them to the next grade. And why haven't we ever gone deeper in the math concepts? And that's really what's going to happen in 6 and 7 before they move to essential concepts in 8. So instead of this mile-wide set of standards that's just go one more thing, go, the next thing, and the next thing, the next thing, we're going to stop and wonder about mathematics and think about it and dig deep into what the mathematics means instead of just racing ahead, because that's really what we do right now, is just race through those standards. So we are forming a committee for K to 7 that is going to look at how many standards we have in each grade level and how do they go together and what value do we place on this particular piece at this time, and how do we think deeper about it? So definitely your middle school classes will change, as well as your elementary classes. So if you've been thinking that your child's going to be bored, they are not. There's going to be lots of opportunity to think deeper about mathematics instead of just what's next in mathematics. So acceleration doesn't go away, but it goes away in the way that you're used to, which is what's next. Just teach me what's next. You can think deeper and slow down and really dig into the mathematics, especially in middle school.
Great, thank you. There is a question about previously recorded sessions. So this session, along with the one we did back in March, are being recorded and they're being posted on our VMPI webpage. So you can get to those links through the link in the tiny URL or in the question Google form that you see on the screen.
Also, I went back to look at the last one by just going to the YouTube link that you would come to tonight to see this one. And it's just right there on the screen in the YouTube at the VDOE site. So you can get to it either way.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one is, how will this affect science courses that require mathematics, such as chemistry and physics? How will students be able to take these courses if their math is slowed down? Anybody want to take that one?
Okay, I'll take that one.
Great. Our STEM coordinator is going to take this one.
Well, so speaking from experience, when I was teaching physical science and physics in high school, right now, kids are in a wide range of different math courses because of the current structure that's set up, which actually makes it more difficult to teach some of those courses because you don't know the background. Not everyone's on the same page and is able to apply those math skills the same way. I actually think that this is going to be better because what we're going to do is we're going to have everybody going through in a more purposeful, deeper way that will allow us to stitch together some of those science and math lessons as we go through. This is part of the integrated STEM. If you know that you're going to have certain science courses 8th through 10th grade and certain math courses along that range, you're going to be able to see those connections and help kids make that relative jump between math and science and make that more purposeful. I think it helps ensure that all the kids can see how the math fits and that everyone gets to see that rather than the few kids that happen to be in the right class at the right time to make those connections. So I think it's important to help us pull that out and make that a great example of why I think some of these pathways and the structure that we're talking about will actually benefit the science classes. With the exception of very few science classes at the AP level, you really only go to a certain range within the math that the kids will all then have that experience and will all be able to take those math classes through these essential concepts courses that we're talking about. So I think that this will benefit everyone. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah,
Chuck,
that's great.
I might just add, Tina, that this kind of goes along with my answer around how do we prepare for calculus, is that what we hear from the science folks at the college level even is, again, the fundamental skills, that if all of their students would walk in with a certain level of fundamental skills, teaching the chemistry and the physics are the fun and easy part. It's the fact that they're having to teach math while they're trying to teach balancing equations in chemistry, or while they're trying to teach a formula in physics. If students came in understanding the idea of a formula, what variables meant, just those real basic fundamentals, then that's going to make their job in chemistry and physics even easier. So the students will absolutely be able to enroll in those courses in 11th and 12th grade.
And I might just add one more thought, that as a team, VMPI is not just math people talking to other math people. The beauty of the Virginia Department of Education is that there is a science group and they talk to the math people. So they are on board with us. They understand what we think about these. How does the prerequisite work? How do we make sure that the students are prepared? So we're talking with them as well. So understand that the stakeholder group is wide and it includes science teachers.
Good point, Shelley. There is a lot of stakeholder feedback that we have sought and are still seeking. We definitely want a lot of perspectives, which will make this initiative even more powerful. Let's see, there's one about when will new classes such as data science be available?
We are all on the wrong committee for the right answer. Tina, when
I do have that answer. I can help with that one. So we currently do have a committee who is in the stages of preliminary development of a data science course. So it'll be a whole nother year before we hope to start with a small pilot of a few divisions that might be willing to pilot that course. Probably not this coming school year, 2022-23 would probably be the year that it would be piloted. So we're excited about that. We anticipate it to be either a year-long or a semester-level option for students. And we are also in the process of developing that mathematical modeling and financial modeling course as well. So lots of good work going on.
And so the process is that it will be piloted and we'll work on the materials to make sure that when it is full scale available to students that we have the best product available. Is that how that works?
Yeah, and data science is a very unique course because it's kind of a blend of statistics, computer science, and it takes a little bit of coding to really look at the data science and look at those big data sets. So we're excited about thinking about how to help teachers learn about some of that coding as they're teaching that course. So there will be a lot of professional development that will go into piloting and getting ready to teach that course, but should be a lot of fun to teach. Let's see, there's a few more questions in here. Let's try, it looks like there's a couple about students who are in accelerated classes, for example, 8th or 9th grade when this is implemented. What will happen with those students?
We are definitely still talking about them. Who's in the geometry sandwich the year that we finish the crosswalk and we move into essential concepts? So much conversation is around those children because our goal is to provide them the best education possible, not to stymie them or make them dislike mathematics. We want them to love it. So we will work to make sure that if they're already in the sandwich, that we can get them the completion of the sandwich that they need, or if they've just bitten off a bite, can we get them into essential concepts so that will start. That's what I'm thinking about in particular when you're right there in 8th grade Algebra 1, and then the next year is Essential Concepts 9. How does that work? So I feel like at the next session in the class, the Essential Concepts presentation, they'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's definitely still a conversation that we are receiving feedback on.
Yeah, and the transition, to move to the Virginia Math Pathways Initiative, which is why we've started so early, is going to be a much longer transition than typically when we just revise our standards of learning. And so those plans are currently, being worked on. Thank you, Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what is the difference between differentiated and tracked/accelerated classes? I think that's the question. What's the difference between differentiated and tracked/accelerated classes?
I'll start, and then I'll expect the other two to jump in. A track is when you are unable to get on it later on. So in 6th grade, I put you in 8th grade math. In 7th grade, I put you in Algebra 1. In 9th grade or 8th grade, I put you in geometry. And I have you on this track that takes you to this end point. And if you did not, at 10 years old, get put in that class, there's no way for you to get into it. So if you come into your own mathematically in 7th grade, too bad. You aren't on the right track. You don't get to go take calculus in high school. So a track is very limiting to all children. Even the children who are on the highest track, they get stuck and you can't get out of it. And what if you didn't have such great success, or you needed a stronger foundation in Algebra 1 because everything builds on that? Too bad. You took it. You got to keep moving. On the track, it's like a train. You're stuck. Acceleration, Chuck and I were just talking about this the other day, and the definition of acceleration, because we always think of it as just moving, just about speed. I learned how to multiply all of my times tables before 3rd grade. So in 3rd grade, you better teach me my 2 times tables, or double digit and triple digit and quadruple digit, because that's what's next. And I'm ready to go faster. So that is one form of acceleration that we have used in mathematics, but oddly, not in all other subject areas.
So
Chuck, I see you're ready to jump in.
Thank you for the transition. So we were talking about it. I was talking about the fact that in physics, acceleration is also a change in direction. And I think we kind of came up with, or trying to play with, a good analogy that if we're all on a river going kind of the same direction, this is an opportunity for someone to change direction, go a little bit deeper. This is an opportunity for an ability to study the concepts a little bit more, be able to do that deeper learning and make those connections to other things, whether it be science, whether it be some real world problems that you can tie the math to. It's an opportunity to be able to do that. So that acceleration could be depth rather than just being able to push further, faster down that river. So I think taking a look at that, and that there's a range of depth depending on where the capacity of the student is and their interest. And you know what? It also provides that chance, rather than a kid being on a track that's stuck forever. Some kids are going to resonate with certain parts of the math lessons, with different activities, different content areas better than others. And that gives them a chance to still dive deep where they feel that they're connected with the math, and hopefully find the math that resonates most with them, so they can pick those pathways later on in high school and hopefully influence their decisions on career pathways. So I think that that depth gives us a little bit more importance and capacity to be able to play with the math a little bit differently and be able to appreciate how it fits into our everyday lives. Is that what you were talking about, Shelley? Hopefully I just didn't dream that.
That is exactly it. And you said depth, and I'm thinking that differentiation was the word that was in the question. And so what that says is, go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. I used a different term for that, but that differentiation is an opportunity for some of the people to dive deeper into some of that and be able to experience some of the math and different connections differently, because that's what resonates with them. So yeah, just connecting it back. Thank you for pointing that out.
And I would like to really be respectful of people's time. So it's 7:30 and we said that we'd stick an hour. So I would like you to know that if your question didn't get answered tonight, it's probably because the topic will be addressed deeply in the next two sessions, or we ran out of time, and we will make sure that those questions get to the next two sets of presenters. Feedback and questions will inform the future of this initiative. Your feedback provides us with great information that will inform our work. So the next meeting is April 27th. It's at 6:30. It's the same place that you came here. We're going to talk about essential concepts for grades 8 through 10. We thank you very much for being with us. And the QR code will be in existence until May 25th. Please continue to share your thoughts with us. Thank you. Good night.